It gave me spooky vibes like I was being openly judged, and I loved it. Hi! Welcome back to my channel! Today, we'll be discussing Blotted Pages by DBgahyangcha. Before we get started, there will be spoilers, so if you don't want to be spoiled in this manhwa, go ahead and click off now. No worries, I'll catch you next time. For those of you who decide to stick around, let's go over some content warnings. There may be references to BDSM, including breath play, overwork, being outed, excessive drinking, plagiarism, blood, obsession, strained familial relationships, invasion of privacy, voyeurism, violence, self-deprecation, suicidal ideation, power imbalance, dubcon, somnophilia, mentions of abuse, gossiping, depictions of murder, strangulation, and manipulation, as these things do appear in the manhwa. But if that's okay with you, let's go and get started. Do-on is an overworked, underpaid, and underappreciated teacher's assistant for a college professor in the English department. All of the students constantly praise the professor's feedback, not realizing Do-on is the one who reads their work and writes that feedback. It's frustrating. But Do-on is compelled to keep up all the hard work. He's in the middle of another assignment from the professor when a student comes to drop off his work. The student is Soo-won, a quiet and shy person who seems to have trouble fitting in. Or at least that's how Do-on perceives Soo-won. But upon looking through the assignment, Do-on finds what's supposed to be a piece of fiction appears to be a diary of sorts, and it has all manner of sexual escapades featuring Soo-won and another man in the department. This is not who Do-on imagined Soo-won is, but Do-on desperately wants to know who this Soo-won is. To start with, what initially drew me into this title was the cover art. It's very interesting looking, and I had to see what it was like within the work itself. Now, while some of the faces are very nice to see, admittedly the work is smudgy and ugly 99% of the time. The anatomy is all over the place, and there is something painfully horrific about the hands. They're long, spidery, and look completely out of place in these character designs. It oddly looks like a bunch of different styles were all cobbled together. The heads are from one, the body from another, and the hands are a whole other beast. It's also in all black and white, which really makes it feel like a nightmarish horror story. That sort of fits the narrative, but barely so. Overall, I hate the style. Moving on to the story, though it isn't voyeurism in the traditional sense, this story very much leverages voyeurism. Much of the story's background and setup is a frame, with Do-on reading and experiencing the painful and toxic relationship between Soo-won and Sung-won. Through Soo-won's narrative submission, it heavily blurs the lines between reality and fiction, especially since Do-on reads it as if it's a novel, though in reality it's a diary with two people he knows very well. Over time, he comes to realize just how real all of it is, and the depravity of his actions while reading it stuns even him. He recognizes what he's feeling is wrong, but the eroticism and emotion in the writing draws him in to the point that he can't deny his wants. It's voyeurism in a far more removed way, but it has the same level of perversion as your standard voyeurism. It's dark and disgusting, but in the best way, and it really sets the tone for the entire work as one of obsession. Soo-won is obsessed with Sung-won, and through his own retelling of his obsession, Soo-won ends up becoming the focus of Do-won's obsession. It almost has a horror vibe to it, like this obsession is something contagious, and it has a weird meta element to it since the core of it is Do-won reading an erotic retelling of someone's experiences, eventually lusting over it himself, which is not unlike us as we read explicit manhwa like this. I don't at all believe that is what was intended, but its tone definitely made me question how different I was from Do-on. It gave me spooky vibes like I was being openly judged, and I loved it. It very much reminds me of Hotaru Dies Tomorrow, but the book character Do-on falls in love with is the version Soo-won depicted of himself in his work. There is a moment where Do-on compares the book version of Soo-won to the real one in front of him, showing how differently Soo-won perceives himself in his writing. He also compares himself to Sung-won, even going so far as to revel in the moment when during sex, Soo-won calls Do-on Sung-won. This shows just how powerful his obsession is. Being called by the name of someone Soo-won wrote with such love and obsession makes him feel loved and obsessed over. It puts him in Soo-won's story, the thing he fell in love with, and it shows just how far he has fallen for Soo-won. With all that being said, the concept of this story is interesting. I'm really into the concept of falling in love with a book character, including one based on a real person, and then having to come to terms with the dissonance between those two people. Perception is a key focus in all of this, and I enjoyed that part of it immensely. But the wildly ugly art style and the super short story make it hard to enjoy this concept. It has a ton of potential, and I really wanted to love this, but I just couldn't. I think this is ultimately a miss, though it has its strong points. So, have you read Blotted Pages? If so, what do you think? Do you agree with my assessment? Do you not? Let me know in comment below. Otherwise, I'll catch you next time. Bye!